The Kabul skies are covered in celebratory gunfire. Taliban leaders claim they've taken Panjshir Valley, the last region resisting their takeover. Resistance leaders deny those claims. The former vice president says he's in Panjshir and the fighting is still ongoing. In the last hour, the Taliban spokesman on Twitter told his fighters to stop wasting weapons in celebration. Now they have a country to govern. Amid this confusion, Afghanistan is bracing itself for a new government, with the Taliban expected to announce its leadership lineup. Earlier, some expressed quiet anxiety.
Business has been down since the arrival of the Taliban. There is peace and shops are open, but we don't have many sales.
Others declare their fears loudly while they can. These women protested by the presidential palace. Many others still are trying desperately to get out. With air travel suspended from Kabul, one of the few gateways is at Turkham on the Pakistan border. Historically, travel here was fluid. Now security is stringent. The Taliban guards wield whips, and only those with Pakistani IDs are able to cross, leaving families waiting in uncertainty. The Foreign Secretary was taken on a visit to that border today, amid criticism he personally hadn't been communicating with Pakistani diplomats as the crisis in Afghanistan unfolded. Dominic Raab reiterated Britain will engage with the Taliban but not recognise its government.
The Taliban has made a series of undertakings, and some of them are positive at the level of words, but we need to test them and see that they translate into deeds. Can't do that unless we have at least some channel of dialogue.
As foreign governments begin diplomatic horse trading with the Taliban, Afghans themselves wait to see what their new normal looks like.
Well, earlier I spoke to David Petraeus, former commander of US forces in Afghanistan, and I began by asking what he thought of the way that US troops withdrew and how that's been handled.
Well, I thought everything that has transpired has been heartbreaking to all of those of us who served there and for those who sacrificed a great deal on the ground over the years. It's tragic. And actually, I don't know how you can describe the replacement of an Afghan government, however imperfect, being replaced by the Taliban as anything but disastrous. But we are where we are now. And now, of course, we've got to figure out how do we move forward in this case. And so I think that's what the diplomats of the world are doing now. The Taliban government itself, of course, is a bit like the dog that's been chasing the car for 20 years and all of a sudden is in the driver's seat. It's a lot harder to govern than it is to be an insurgent movement. It's easy to criticize, it's easy to foment violence and carry out attacks, to criticize from the backbench. But all of a sudden, they are ruling the country. They've got to form a government quickly.
You went on, of course, to run the CIA. Are you surprised that the intelligence on how fast the Taliban would take over Afghanistan wasn't better?
There were numerous of us in the private sector who publicly said, and I certainly said, that I fear a psychological collapse, especially when I learned that the 17 or 18,000 contractors who maintained the Afghan US-provided sophisticated helicopters and planes were leaving. And once the Afghan soldiers on the front lines who are being attacked all around the country, it was quite a masterful offensive campaign for which the Taliban positioned their forces in the months leading up to that, and then simultaneously launched these attacks. And the Afghan Central Command, if you will, the headquarters, couldn't respond to all of these. And again, I don't think it should have been at all surprising that if soldiers know there's nobody coming to the rescue, they detect a change in the wind that's quite significant. They are going to do what Afghans have done over the centuries of empires washing back and forth across their country, which is to recognize who's going to win and to cut a deal with them. And that's exactly what they did. You know, there are those who, this may be an overly harsh term, but have described Afghans as professional chameleons, which ultimately, of course, extends to the president of Afghanistan himself getting on a plane and leaving the country as well without even telling those who were expecting him, I think, for lunch or whatever it was.
But Joe Biden has sent a message across the world with his actions, hasn't he? I mean, If you live in tyranny or in a chaotic civil war situation, you can't look to the United States anymore. So who do you look to?
Well, first of all, I would note that in every other case where there is an Islamist extremist group, this administration demonstrates that it has learned the right lessons. It's just, frankly, in Afghanistan where we decided not to keep forces, to keep an eye on extremist elements, and where, as a result, Afghan forces and the government obviously collapsed. And is there a damage to our credibility, to our reputation? I think that's probably undeniable. It is not catastrophic. It is not non-biodegradable. But I think, again, the U.S. has been doing quite an admirable job in bringing together all of our allies and partners in what is the most important U.S. and an allied and partner effort, which is to forge a coherent, comprehensive whole of governments, with an S on the end of that, approach to China. That is the most important relationship in the world. The Biden administration rightly has assessed that we have to do that with all of our allies and partners together. The way they've gone about it is quite impressive.
General Petraeus, thank you very much indeed.
It's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.